What?
Hey, Nate.
How's it going, Austin?
Good, how are you?
Oh, dude, I'm doing all right. Thanks for asking.
You know, Nate, have you ever just sat in class and just fantasized about having Caesar salad at school lunch ever?
Dude, that is all I ever do, especially in college English class with Mr. Anderson. All he ever does is tell dad jokes.
Right? That's exactly what I was thinking. Patrick, what do you think?
Well, Anderson just always thinks I'm asleep, but deep down, I know I'm so much better at running cross country than he ever was, so I really don't care.
Alright then, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I'll take it.
Now imagine this, guys. The lunch menu displays Caesar salad that day, but ironically, all of the salad is gone when you get there. I mean, like...
That sounds like a stab in the back.
Dude, that's just Brutus, man.
Am I right?
William Shakespeare was born in Stratford-upon-Avon, a small town in England, on April 23rd in 1564. He was baptized 3 days after at the Holy Trinity Church on April 26th of 1564. Shakespeare was the son of local tanners named John and Mary Shakespeare. William Shakespeare entered into a local grammar school when he was 7 years old in the Stratford area in 1571.
At the age of 18, Shakespeare married Anne Hathaway, who was 26 years old at the time, at the Temple Grafton on November 27, 1582. The two had an illegitimate child named Susanna, who was born just 5 months after their wedding on May 26th of 1583. On February 2nd of 1585, Shakespeare had twins named Judith and Hamnet.
From 1585 to 1592, Shakespeare is believed to have left his family in Stratford in order to join a company of actors as both a playwright and a performer. This was ultimately the beginning of his career in theatre. Towards the end of 1592, theatres in London began to close as a result of the plague. After this, William Shakespeare set out to construct some of history's most influential plays. He eventually wrote Julius Caesar from 1599 through 1600, leading to its first performance at the Globe Theatre on September 21, 1599.
William Shakespeare wrote Julius Caesar because of his own worries of his country's queen becoming a tyrant. This relates to the play in that many people feared Julius Caesar was a tyrant during his rule. Queen Elizabeth I was extremely popular throughout most of her reign due to her strong will, intelligence, and personal character, which eventually led her to earning the title The Great at the end of her 45-year reign. People and citizens at the time believed that her power was only magnified as she grew older. However, towards the end of her reign, she had not yet chosen an heir, leading many people, including William Shakespeare, to believe she was adopting the role as a tyrant. In William Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, a magnificent tale of fate unveils the sinister intentions of Caesar's confidants, ultimately leading to immense betrayal and his demise.
There are several key characters that arise during this scene of the play. First, Julius Caesar was a powerful statesman and general within the Roman army. Shortly after returning home from his victory in Pompeii, he declared himself as a powerful senator in Rome. This is due to the series of battles that he won, which ultimately led to the expansion of the Roman Republic. While his good friend Brutus worries that Caesar may aspire to implement a dictatorship, Caesar shows no intentions and even declines the crown several times. Although Caesar sternly refuses the crown, he does have several flaws that ultimately lead to his demise. For one, he does not separate his public life from his private life. He becomes entranced in the public's growing idealization of his image. This leads him to ignore all the omens and threats against his life, believing that he was as eternal as the North Star.
Furthermore, there is Mark Antony, who is one of Caesar's close friends. Antony initially claims his allegiance to the conspirators behind Caesar's death. However, later on at Caesar's funeral oration, he gives a speech that invigorates the public. He skillfully uses rhetoric to rally the crowd, eventually leading to a revolt against Brutus and the other conspirators. Interestingly enough, Antony hints several times during the scene at his own ambitious nature. In addition to this, there is Marcus Junius Brutus, who is a powerful senator who strongly believes that the Roman Republic should be guided by the votes of the senators. Caesar is one of Brutus's closest friends. However, Brutus continuously fears the potential dictatorship arising within the Republic. Brutus is responsible for gathering the other conspirators in order to assassinate the great Julius Caesar. Although the other conspirators are committing the act out of pure envy and rivalry, Brutus believes that Caesar's death will actually benefit Rome. Brutus puts the state matters before his own, which is what initially led him to his predicament. Torn between his loyalty towards Caesar and his predisposed admiration of the state, Brutus eventually becomes the tragic hero of the play.
In aftermath of Caesar's defeating Pompey and his sons, celebration sets in over Rome, where Caesar was the penultimate ruler. Public games take place with Caesar's friend Mark Antony partaking in all the festivities. Various elected officials, Morales and Flavius, chastised the crowds for celebrating Caesar's victory, arguing that they were being disloyal to Pompey, who was regarded as a hero. Moreover, Cassius develops a plot to assassinate Emperor Caesar and effectively takes advantage of politician Brutus's good nature.
As an example of this, Cassius goes as far as to throw fictitious notes in Brutus's home, with intentions to convince Brutus that he has the support of the people to become ruler of Rome. In consequence to this manipulation, Brutus is convinced into the plot of assassination and starts to hold private meetings at his home within his conspiracy group. The day of the plotted assassination, Julius Caesar's wife, Calpurnia, warns Caesar not to make his way to the Senate meeting as a result of a dream she had where Caesar was murdered.
As Caesar agrees, Senator Decius exclaims that Caesar's absence would show weakness, and Caesar is persuaded to go on considering he is expected to be named king that day. Furthermore, Caesar went to the Senate that day on his own free will, which proved to be a detrimental decision to the future existence of Julius Caesar.
We will be performing Act 3, Scene 1, in which Austin plays the role of Julius Caesar. Nathan effectively will play the role of Brutus, and Patrick will play the roles of both Cassius and Metellus Cimber. Furthermore, Nathan and Patrick will play the roles of various senators who betrayed Caesar while they stabbed 23 times.
It's the thrill of one more kill, the last one to fall.
The Ides of March are come.
What said Populus Lena?
He wished today our enterprise might thrive. I fear our purpose is discovered.
Look how he makes to Caesar. Mark him.
Casca, be sudden, for we fear prevention. Brutus, what shall be done?
Cassius, be constant. Populus Lena speaks not of our purposes. For look, he smiles, and Caesar doth not change.
Trebonius knows his time, for look you, Brutus.
Are we all ready? What is now amiss that Caesar and his Senate must redress?
Most high, most mighty, and most puissant Caesar.
I must prevent thee, Cimber, these couchings, and these lowly courtesies might fire the blood of ordinary man, and turn preordinance and first decree into the law of children.
Is there no voice more worthy than my own to sound more sweetly in great Caesar's ear for the repealment of my banished brother?
I kiss thy hand, but not in flattery, Caesar, desiring thee that Publius Cimber may have an immediate freedom of repeal.
What?
Brutus!
Pardon, Caesar, Caesar, pardon. As low as thy foot doth Cassius fail, to beg enfranchisement for Publius Cimber. I could be well moved if I were as you. If I could pray to move, prayers would move me. Oh, Caesar, please.
Hence wilt thou lift up Olympus.
Great Caesar!
Doth not Brutus bootless kneel?
Speak, hands for me.
To Brutus.
Liberty, freedom, tyranny is dead. Run forth, proclaim it about the streets.
Immediately following the murder of Julius Caesar, there are crowds of people gathered in the city center. It is here that Brutus commands the attention of all of them and delivers a speech. He begins by saying they must trust his honor and that the murder of Julius Caesar was the right action to have been taken. He states that he rose against Caesar not because he didn't love him, but because he loved Rome more and it had to be done. He says that if he had not assassinated Caesar, they would have all had to submit to the slavery which was extremely against Roman ideals. He then says he will turn the same blade on himself if it is ever the right thing to do. The crowd seems to be agreeing with what Brutus has said, but then Mark Antony gives his own speech. During his speech, Mark Antony is able to twist the crowd into wanting to pursue and kill Brutus, Cassius, and the other conspirators. This sets the scene for a massive war between Cassius and Brutus and army versus Mark Antony and Octavius and their army. The night before the battle, the ghost of Julius Caesar comes to Brutus saying, "I will see you in Philippi," the location of the battle, the next day. The battle goes poorly for Cassius and Brutus, and so Cassius makes one of his men kill him, saying Caesar's death is avenged with the same blade that killed him. Brutus also orders one of his men to kill him, and the play ends with Mark Antony calling Brutus the noblest Roman to ever live. Act 3, Scene 1 is important for a variety of reasons. First off, this is the point in the play in which the conspirators finally act on their desires, resulting in the death of Julius Caesar. After Caesar has fallen, the public is caught between a rock and a hard place. While Brutus attempts to explain the reasoning behind the assassination, Mark Antony sways the public in his favor. This ultimately results in chaos in the Roman city, leaving the Republic at odds with one another. This also shows how people commit moral deeds for what they believe are either moral or immoral reasons. For example, Brutus believed that killing Caesar was in the best interest of the state, while other conspirators did it out of jealousy towards Caesar. There were several themes apparent throughout the novel and in our selection. First, ambition versus conflict is present in the play. Caesar's perceived ambitions are what lead Brutus to act on the assassination, ultimately resulting in a lot of conflict. Power of speech is also an important theme, as Brutus and Mark Antony both try to persuade the public to their side following Caesar's death. Furthermore, idealism is shown in the play when Brutus imagines and strives for the ideal Roman Republic. The theme of heroes and villains is questioned as the audience goes back and forth on who is the hero and who is the villain throughout the whole play. Finally, the themes of loyalty and fate play a crucial role in the assassination of Caesar, as the loyalty of his companions is compromised.
The play Julius Caesar is one of the most commonly studied Shakespeare plays in school. This is due to how well it is made, and it appears to be so direct and relatively simple. However, upon a deeper study, the more subtle and ambiguous it begins to appear, not in its plot, but rather in its character. For example, the character that the play is named after dies halfway through the play. One of the highest regarded aspects of this play is the character developments throughout. Readers are able to feel connected with different characters throughout the plot. One criticism of this play, however, is that there is not enough time put into plot development.